first guest today, the impact he had on pop culture is undeniable. Mike the Situation Sorrentino and his pals known as the Jersey Shore. Listen, they became household names, if you could believe, 15 years ago, and they've been on our TV ever since. They've had spinoffs. The latest season of Jersey Shore Family Vacation actually premieres next month. Since they taught us the phrase gym, tan, laundry, the show has made headlines, record-breaking ratings, pop culture phrases. The show has been seen now in more than 30 different countries. Wow, that's an impact. So, both Mike and the show have been nominated for multiple People's Choice Awards, Teen Choice Awards. Even the University of Chicago had a conference on Jersey Shore studies. What grade do you get in that one? All right, well, but here's the deal. There's so much more than, I'm told, what we've seen. In his new memoir, Mike is sharing the stories we've never heard before. It is dark, it is deep, it is emotional, and it is revealing. Mike details for the first time the lengths he went to hide an addiction and the truth of how wild life was for him before the show. People think it's fame and fortune that bring the wild side. His started well before that. Even before the release of his much anticipated memoir, Mike made headlines in a daytime exclusive for the Tan Fam. He is ready to talk. Please welcome author of Reality Check, Making the Best of the Situation, Mike the Situation Sorrentino! Congratulations on finishing this. Oh my gosh, look at you. Listen, life must be good. You walk out here in your Louis Vuitton kicks. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes.
You're a brave man to wear those in the snow.
Oh God, yes.
Happy to see you here.
It's cold out there. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you know, this book has already been making headlines before it was even released. It's a fascinating story. Why were you ready to tell it? Because we feel like we saw you go to prison. We've seen you in your wild hijinks on the show.
Yeah.
I felt like when I heard the book was coming out, like, what more is there? And then I started reading.
Yeah. I just felt that everyone thought they knew the situation.
Yeah.
And my show has been on TV for the last 15 years.
15
my life
years,
has been a reality show.
Yeah, yeah.
And there was so much to my story that people didn't know. And now that I made it to the other side, 8 years clean and sober,
Last night I was on Instagram and I saw the picture that you and your wife, and by the way, his wife Lauren's gonna join us, that you posted with your kids celebrating your sobriety.
Yeah.
And it really touched my heart because I just read the book, and as I said to the audience, people think that fame brings these problems, and it does.
Mm-hmm.
But for you, a lot of this started, as you wrote, when you were 19 years old.
Mm-hmm.
You wrote in the book, I remember about using Percocet at 19, before the show had ever started. You said, I remember thinking, wow, I've never felt like this before. Imagine feeling like this all the time. I loved it. I wanted more, again, always. I had no knowledge about the dangers of prescription pills. I discovered opiates were my true love.
Mm-hmm.
You were 19.
Yeah.
You dropped out of college.
Yep.
You were stripping.
Stripping, yeah, and a drug dealer.
And a drug dealer.
And a drug dealer, yeah.
All before the show ever started.
Yeah.
What was going on in your home? You know, I always wonder, I'm a mom now, I'm thinking,
you know, my parents provided an amazing home. I just was always very mischievous. I always pushed the envelope on every single thing, you know? And we eventually see that type of personality, that it eventually breeds that type of behavior, pushing everything to the limits and going against authority. Eventually it led to prison.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm looking at this life though, reading about this life, and I said, gosh, you're stripping, selling drugs, and you're dropping out. That's like the holy trinity of a parent's nightmare.
Yes, yes.
What kind of, you know, as you said, your parents are supportive, and we've seen that, and you
they
write
were.
about that. But how were you, I think every parent wants to know, how does my kid fall into this?
Oh,
especially when
gosh.
you have a great support system at home.
You know
It
what?
seems more than mischievous.
You know what? It could be the growing up, you're romanticizing the mafia, being Italian, and obviously I lived in suburban America, so you don't really see much of that. So it could have been a little bit of that, but it was more personality, I think, than anything.
Are you in therapy now? Because I feel like when you write a memoir, you got to go to some kind of therapy.
I've definitely been in therapy for the past, God, a good almost at least 8 years probably. We've done anger management, we've done therapy, I've done rehab multiple times, and that's probably why the book is so deep.
Right.
Because I'm able to deep dive into self and look at all the variables.
I think that's why I asked you that question, because you did the work to
Yes,
really reveal
yes.
things that you've never told
I did.
before. You write about the height of the success.
Yeah.
Even to the point where Barack Obama at the White House Correspondents' Dinner mentioned your name. I think we have the clip. Let's play it.
Oh, wow.
This next provision is called the Jersey Shore-Up. It reads, the following individuals shall be excluded from the indoor tanning tax within this bill. Snooki, JWoww, The Situation, and House Minority Leader John Boehner.
Yes.
I mean,
He's.
I was there that night. I can't imagine. Here you are, the world's leader is mentioning you in his monologue.
It was unbelievable. I mean, listen, he's an amazing speaker. I mean, look, he's amazing. But it was, it was a ride that kept speeding up, to be honest with you. Almost like a roller coaster that kept going faster and faster. And I did my best to hold on. But if you read the book, you'll see that eventually the shooting star that was the situation eventually crashed.
Well, so in the book, you talk about at the height of the success. You say Jersey Shore was the most watched show in MTV history. Episodes rivaling viewership of major network shows. Our rating bonuses were regularly $500,000. Not bad for a young Guido from Staten Island. So it did lead to a life of excess.
It did. I was just happy that I wasn't drug dealing anymore, to be honest with you. But that lack of knowledge of self still led me in that same trajectory, if you think about it. Because if you're drug dealing, most likely the options or the end results are going to be prison or jail.
Right.
Right? So I got away from that, okay? And I was in TV. And because of the lack of knowledge of self, I still ended up in prison. In prison, yeah.
You served federal prison time for tax evasion, 5 years. Of the investigation, you said, I was in the zone for probation and community service, and with no priors and all the challenges I had made in my life, that was the outcome we all expected. You ended up on TV and famous. The 19-year-old kid who was selling drugs still found himself locked up.
Yep. The black sheep still found himself locked up. Yep. It was a tough.
That's your prison card.
Oh, definitely. Yep. Ironically, I'll have to say that I did turn my L's into lessons, and prison continued to make me a better man. But before I went to prison, I was already sober.
Yeah.
I was already on the right road. I was sober about 2.5 or 3 years already. I was speaking at high schools and colleges. I was working at rehabs.
So the prison came after you had reset your life, and which is the irony of it.